Have you ever found yourself in a situation like this? You give without conditions. You're always the one who reaches out first. You're exhausted, but you still try to stay. You know they're not being honest with themselves, but you choose to believe one more time. And then, one day, you realize everything you've done hasn't helped them grow. It's only left you drained. I don't know what stage you're in right now, but if you've been asking yourself, why do I keep getting taken advantage of? Why does giving sincerely still end in pain? Or deeper still, am I becoming a savior to people who don't want to be saved? Then this video is for you. We were raised in a society that teaches helping others is the right thing to do. But no one taught us something even more important. Helping the wrong person can be more dangerous than not helping at all. This isn't a call to become cold-hearted. It's not an excuse to avoid responsibility or compassion. It's a wake-up call for those who are trading their inner peace just to hold on to a relationship that's already rotting. For those who keep trying to pull someone out of a pit when that person never wanted to climb out. Stoicism doesn't forbid giving, but it teaches give with awareness. Give without losing yourself. Give without feeding someone else's illusion. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If something is beyond your control, do not let it control your mind." You cannot change someone. You cannot force someone to improve. You cannot carry a soul that has chosen the path of destruction. What you can and must do is draw a boundary. Not because you're selfish, but because you've come to understand your peace matters too. Many of us help others, not out of compassion, but out of guilt. We're afraid they'll be upset, afraid we'll be judged as uncaring, afraid that if we're not there, they'll fall apart, afraid that if we don't hold them, they'll disappear from our lives. But it's that very fear that turns us into hostages. They make mistakes, we feel responsible. They fail, we blame ourselves. They return to old patterns we tell ourselves. We didn't try hard enough. That is emotional manipulation in its most subtle form, and unfortunately, it's all too common. Seneca once said, "One of the things the wise must learn is knowing who is truly worth helping, because helping the wrong person doesn't just drain you, it makes you an accomplice to their stagnation." Have you noticed? The ones always begging for rescue are often the ones who never truly change. They ask for help, promise they'll be different. You help, and they go right back to where they were. And that cycle repeats so many times. You begin to forget you were once strong. What does Stoicism teach us in this situation? It teaches help, but don't become someone's crutch. Listen, but don't let others dictate the path of your heart. Not everyone who falls needs you to lift them. Some just need you to let go. There's a truth that's hard to accept. Some people only change when the pain becomes unbearable. And if you keep shielding them from consequences, they'll never hit bottom. And without hitting bottom, there is no awakening. Helping someone isn't always pulling them out of the hole. Sometimes helping means letting them fall and letting them get up on their own. Because real change never comes from force. It only comes when someone chooses to live a different life. If you're still wondering, should I stop helping altogether? The answer is no. You can still help, but before you do, ask yourself, do they truly want to change? Are they taking responsibility for their actions? Do they value your support? And most importantly, are you helping out of love or out of fear? If your answer leans toward fear, then step back. Because a Stoic doesn't live to please others, a Stoic lives to protect the freedom of their own mind, and from there, help the world through clarity, not through blind sacrifice. And that's why, in the next part, I'll walk you through 7 types of people you should never help if you want to protect your inner peace. not because they don't deserve kindness, but because they are not ready to receive it in the right way. If you're giving too much, if you're feeling drained in relationships that look fine on the surface, then stay with me. Part 2 will help you see clearly who you need to let go of and who you can walk alongside with awareness and steadiness. There is a kind of person, the more you help them, the weaker they become. The more you support them, the more they depend on you. The harder you try to push them forward, the more they pull back. That is the lazy person, not someone going through temporary hardship, not someone facing a crisis, but someone who has chosen stagnation as a way of life and covers it up with 100 excuses. Epictetus once said, "If you keep putting shoes on someone their whole life, they'll forget how to walk on their own feet." It may sound harsh, but it's true. You can't help someone who doesn't want to stand up. You can't teach someone to swim while they're trying to pull you down with them. They often start with complaints. Life is just too unfair. I never seem to get lucky. Everything's working against me. At first, you feel sympathy. You think, they're just going through something. I should help. You lend them money. You open up opportunities. You do a few small things for them, then gradually, everything. And then one day, you look around. All the responsibility is now on your shoulders. And they, still sitting there spinning in the same cycle of blame and complaints. There's a truth that Stoic philosophy always emphasizes. There is no growth without initiative. There is no maturity without accepting responsibility. Lazy people don't lack opportunities. They lack will. They don't lack advice. They lack commitment. And if you keep helping them, you're unintentionally enabling the escape route they've chosen for themselves. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Don't say you don't have time. Don't blame your circumstances. The truly strong are those who do what needs to be done, even when no one is cheering them on." So the real question is, does the person you're trying to help truly want to change, or do they just want someone else to do the work for them? There are clear signs. They always find time for entertainment, but never for actual work. They know they need to change, but always put it off. Maybe tomorrow. They're used to others taking responsibility for them and treat that as normal. The more you help, the more passive they become. The more you save them, the more they rely on you. Eventually, you'll realize you're the one being pulled backward. In Discourses, Epictetus taught, freedom doesn't come from avoiding responsibility, but from embracing it with initiative. Those who cling to others never learn that. They take your kindness, turn it into a soft chair, and sit in it forever, never getting up. And the worst part, they'll blame you when their life doesn't improve. They'll say, "It's because you stopped helping. It's your fault. I failed. Everyone abandoned me." No, they weren't abandoned. They're just finally facing themselves without someone to carry the weight for them. Stoicism doesn't teach us to turn our backs on the weak, but it does teach us to recognize the difference between someone who needs a hand and someone who just wants a back to sit on. You have the right to help, but you also have the right to step back. And sometimes, stepping back is the greatest gift you can give them, because only when there's no one left to save them do they begin to learn how to save themselves. If you're helping someone who's lazy, ask yourself, do they take initiative after your help? Or do they just slip back into waiting mode? Do they appreciate your effort, or treat it like something they're entitled to? Do they change for real, or just temporarily until you let your guard down? The answers will show you, are you helping a person, or are you feeding a parasitic shadow? When you hold on to them, you think you're being kind, but in reality, you may be blocking them from the lesson they need most, the lesson of responsibility, the lesson of choice, the lesson of consequence. Don't rob them of that opportunity. Don't let your kindness become a chain. You are not a savior. You weren't born to carry the whole weight of the world's weakness. You are a human being with limits, with value, and with the right to protect your own inner peace. And sometimes, the best thing you can do is let go at the right moment. Let them walk, even if they crawl at first, even if they fall a few times, but those steps must be theirs, not something you walk for them. In the next part, we'll talk about the second kind of person, the ungrateful, the ones who take everything but never express gratitude, the ones who can consume your kindness completely and throw it into a cold, empty space as if it never existed. Stay with me. Clarity always begins with truth. Have you ever given your all to help someone only to be met with cold silence? Have you stayed up late listening to their struggles, pushed aside your own responsibilities just to be there for them? But when you were the one in need, they disappeared. You once believed that as long as your intentions were sincere, people would eventually see it. But over time, you came to understand. Not everyone knows how to appreciate. Not everyone deserves your effort. Among all the types of people to avoid, the ungrateful are among the most dangerous. Not because they are loud, not because they visibly harm you, but because they quietly erode your trust, little by little. Stoic philosophy named this problem thousands of years ago. Seneca once wrote, "A grateful person never treats kindness as an obligation, but the ungrateful always act like your goodness is their right." Do you recognize this type? They always need you, but never thank you. They take everything as if it's owed to them. They never ask if you're tired, or if you're okay. They just ask, "Why isn't it done yet?" Or worse, "Is that all?" Gratitude is a sign of emotional maturity. Ingratitude, on the other hand, is a mindset of entitled consumption, disguised as friendliness or closeness. Stoicism doesn't teach us to expect anything in return, but it also doesn't tell us to ignore abuse. You don't need them to repay you, but you must be awake enough to know when your kindness is being treated as a bottomless resource. Here's a painful truth. Ungrateful people often get the most attention because they know how to make you feel guilty for stepping back. They appear fragile, in need of care. They know how to trigger your sense of duty every time you try to walk away. So you keep giving, again and again, until one day you wake up and realize you've been silently drained, and they go on with life, as if they've never received a single thing from you. Marcus Aurelius once wrote a short, powerful line: "If someone can't appreciate the small, they don't deserve the great." No one is born grateful. Gratitude is a choice, and the ungrateful have chosen to live without it. They act like everything they receive is normal. But you know the truth. You gave your time, your energy, even your trust just to stay beside them. And when you give too much, you begin to question yourself. Is something wrong with me? Am I asking too much? Or maybe I'm just not good enough. No, you're not wrong. You just gave to the wrong person. You don't need to become harsh to stop helping the ungrateful. You only need to be clear-headed, clear enough to remember, kindness is not an obligation. Compassion is not a product to be bargained with. Those who are worthy will cherish it. Those who aren't will exploit it, and you must learn to tell the difference before your wounds become scars that never heal. There's a powerful image in Stoic philosophy I want you to remember. A spring may flow endlessly, but if no one protects it, it too will run dry. You may be generous, compassionate, full of love, but if you keep pouring into cups with holes, eventually you will run empty. And the danger is, ungrateful people will never apologize for it. They'll keep asking, keep expecting, keep demanding, not because they're evil, but because they simply don't believe there's a limit to your heart. You must be the one to draw that line. So how do you recognize an ungrateful person? They often show these signs. They treat what you do as no big deal. They rarely express sincere appreciation. They compare you to others to make you try harder. They show up when they need you and vanish when you need them. A Stoic doesn't wait around hoping for people to give back, but a Stoic also doesn't let themselves be emptied by relationships that are emotionally unhealthy. If you're in a relationship where you feel you have to work for acknowledgement, or worse, you have to endure just to avoid being abandoned, then ask yourself one simple question. What is this relationship growing inside me? If it's growing bitterness, if it's growing feelings of being unworthy, if it's making you doubt your own goodness, step back, not to punish them, but to protect the purity of your own heart, that sacred part of you the world is slowly forgetting how to honor. In the next part, we'll look at a type of person that's even harder to face. The arrogant, the one who always believes they're better than you, the one who looks down on advice, rejects your help, but still expects you to be there, serving them. And here lies the biggest test. Do you have the strength to say no to someone who never believes they're wrong? There's a kind of person who never asks for your opinion, but always expects you to be there when things go wrong. They never listen to your advice, but still demand that you stand by them on a path they've already chosen, even if it's the wrong one. These are the arrogant. In any relationship, this kind of person wears you down, silently and slowly, because you're not allowed to disagree. You're not allowed to be right. The more you offer sincere input, the more they see you as an opponent. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The wise don't reject advice. The foolish are those who think they already know enough." Have you ever met someone like that? You offer feedback with sincerity. They take it as an insult. You point out something that's off. They see you as a traitor. You reach out a hand when they're sinking, they refuse it, but later blame you. Why weren't you there when I needed you? That's the nature of arrogance. They want to control everything, even your kindness, but they never truly control themselves. Arrogance isn't the same as confidence. It's the denial of any possibility of being wrong. It's the habit of closing off every voice that disagrees. And the danger is, it makes them unteachable. Stoicism gives us a very clear warning about this. Epictetus said, "No one is more foolish than the one who believes they are already wise." When you help an arrogant person, you're not helping them grow. You're just prolonging their illusion of invincibility. And when failure comes, they won't reflect. They'll blame the world, blame you, blame everyone except themselves. There's an irony in all this. The arrogant are often charismatic at first glance. They speak with certainty, confidence, vision. They make you believe, this person is strong, I can trust them. But then you realize they never apologize. They never admit fault. They never ask for help, but they always expect your presence. That's not strength. That's an ego still in chains. In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself, humility doesn't make you smaller. It makes you spacious enough to hold more truth. But the arrogant have no space for truth, only room for their ego. And if you stay around them too long, you'll soon feel like there's no room left for you to breathe. Because every time you express your thoughts, you feel isolated. So why do we keep trying to help people like this? Maybe it's because we believe eventually they'll come around. Maybe they're just defensive. If I just stay patient long enough, they'll change. But the truth is, no one changes until they admit they're wrong. And no one learns anything if they believe they already know everything. The more you give, the more they dismiss you. The more tolerant you are, the more they push, the more you sacrifice, the more they believe it's your duty. Stoicism doesn't tell you to walk away immediately, but it does teach you to set boundaries. Boundaries aren't locked doors. They're fences of respect. And if someone crosses them with arrogance, denial, or contempt, they no longer deserve the same welcome as before. You can't save someone who's drowning while they're trying to drag you under. You can't share truth with someone who only wants to be praised. You can't walk beside someone if they see themselves as the center of the universe. And most of all, you cannot shrink yourself just to fit someone else's ego. If someone wants you around only to be the backdrop to their greatness, that's not companionship. That's a subtle form of control, disguised as closeness. When you stop helping them, they'll get angry. They'll say, "You've changed." They'll claim you're no longer who you used to be. But you must remember, you are not responsible for maintaining the version of yourself that someone else created in their head. You only have one responsibility: to live in alignment with your true values. And those values do not live in the eyes of the arrogant. They live in your inner peace. When you no longer feel the need to perform, in the next part, we'll talk about a kind of person who can pull you farthest away from yourself. The malicious, those who not only refuse to change, but actively spread harm and expect you to go along with it. This is where you must be more awake than ever, because the moment you continue helping evil, you slowly become a part of it, even without meaning to. Have you ever found yourself helping someone, but deep down, feeling uneasy? You sense it clearly. What they're doing is wrong. Their way of living is hurting others. And even though your intention is good, each time you step in to help, a small voice inside whispers, "Am I enabling something I shouldn't?" If you've ever felt that, listen to it, because sometimes your moral intuition is the last thread keeping you tethered to your true self. Not everyone who asks for help deserves it. Some people aren't falling because life is hard. They're collapsing under the weight of their own wrongdoings. And when you rescue them from the consequences, you're not helping them wake up. You're just delaying the lesson they need to learn. Epictetus once said, "Not everyone who falls needs to be picked up. Some falls are necessary so that a person can relearn humility." The wicked don't need saving. They need consequences. They need to hit the bottom to see the true cost of their corruption. If you pull them back before they fall, you interrupt the natural law of cause and effect. If you cover for their wrongdoing, you become a part of the cycle of destruction. And these people don't always come with red flags. They might be someone close to you, a friend, a relative, a co-worker. They live by this mindset. They hurt others, then justify it. Everyone has their reasons. They deceive, then shrug. That's life. You've got to be smart. They spread lies, manipulate emotions, sow cruelty, and call it just being honest. They don't feel remorse. They just feel clever. And here's the worst part. They want you on their side. Not just silent, but defending them. Not just supportive, but validating their actions with friendship, history, and loyalty. Marcus Aurelius warned himself, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. If it is not pure, do not be part of it." You cannot call it kindness. If you're lending strength to what's wrong, you cannot live with integrity. If every time you help, your conscience shrinks a little more. Stoicism doesn't just teach us to endure hardship, it teaches us to step out of the shadows. Even when those shadows feel familiar, even when they once felt like home. Helping the wicked is a passive form of complicity. You're not the one doing harm, but you're smoothing the road for harm to continue. You lift them up so they can go hurt others again. You cover for them so the truth never gets a voice. You give them a second chance, even when they never learned from the first. Those who live in habitual wrongdoing don't need your mercy. They need boundaries. They need your refusal. They need the loud silence that forces them to face themselves. Otherwise, you're just a boat, carrying them away from the cliff's edge, only for them to steer right back next time. And the most frightening part, you begin to change, not because you want to, but because compromise begins to corrode you from within. You start softening your language around what's clearly wrong. You start understanding evil as long as it's close to you. You begin to abandon your principles because you're afraid of disappointing someone. Then one day, you wake up, look at yourself, and realize you no longer recognize who you've become. Epictetus once taught, "Guard your mind like a fortress. No one can enter unless you open the gate yourself. When you help the wicked, you open that gate, not just to them, but to the habit of compromise. Close it. Step back. Let evil meet its consequences, not because you hate them, but because you understand you are not the savior." And if that feels hard, if you're still asking yourself, "But if I walk away, who will save them?" The answer is no one. Only they can, or no one at all. Because only when they truly see how their wrongdoing is destroying them can real change begin. And if that day never comes, then no matter how sincere your help is, it will never be enough. In the next part, we'll explore a different kind of person, not evil, but just as draining. The foolish, people who never intend harm, but constantly repeat the same mistakes. People who reject growth, ignore advice, and refuse to learn from life. They may not want to do wrong, but their stubbornness and immaturity can still exhaust your soul if you keep trying to rescue them. Have you ever given someone heartfelt advice only for them to do the opposite? You offered your thoughts with sincerity, with the wisdom of experience, with genuine concern, but still, they returned to the same old mistakes. And worse, they came back to you again when the consequences hit. They cried. They asked for advice. They promised to change. You opened your heart again. You helped again. And then they went right back to where they were. That's no longer a mistake. That's a cycle, one they choose, and you get dragged into. Stoic philosophy doesn't blame the foolish, but it warns us not to waste wisdom on those unwilling to receive it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone doesn't want to see the truth, don't blame them, but don't waste your time either. You can't pour water into an upside-down cup. You can't light a room when the person inside keeps switching off the light." Foolish people don't lack opportunities to change. They lack the courage to face themselves. And the danger is, they don't see where the real problem lies. They blame circumstances, others, or even you for not being good enough. There's a line from Discourses by Epictetus: "The wise learn from others' mistakes. The average learn from their own. The foolish learn nothing at all." The issue isn't that they don't know. The issue is they refuse to know. They turn away from truth because truth demands responsibility, and responsibility comes with pain, with change, with leaving the comfort zone. You'll recognize these people by signs like they ask for advice, but never follow it. They repeat the same problems and say, "I don't know why this keeps happening." They never look inward, only outward. They say, "I want to change," but live exactly the same. They live like life is a movie on repeat. Same script, same mistakes, only changing who stands next to them in each scene. Stoicism doesn't encourage judgment, but it teaches discernment, because if you don't recognize this pattern, you'll stay trapped in the cycle. Advise. They listen. They repeat. You feel drained. They apologize. You help again. And that cycle slowly erodes your spirit. You cannot offer light to someone who chooses to keep their eyes closed. You cannot teach someone to grow if they insist on staying a child who never lets go of your hand. And the painful truth is, the more you help them, the more helpless you feel, because you can't change them. You can't shield them from the fall. You can't live their life for them. Epictetus once warned, "Not everyone who listens is ready to learn, and not everyone who falls wants to rise." You must learn to accept. Some people need to fully face the consequences before they can begin to grow. And if you keep showing up every time they collapse, they will never learn to stand on their own. Let them hit the bottom. Let life teach the lesson that you cannot, not because you're abandoning them, but because you've done enough, and now it's their turn to do the work. Don't keep saying things they're not ready to hear. Don't keep pulling them from the mud if that's where they've chosen to stay. Save your compassion for those who cherish it, who listen, who truly want to move forward. In the next part, we'll explore the sixth kind of person, the dishonest manipulator, someone who hides behind the mask of a victim, but is really just using your kindness as a tool. This kind of person doesn't just drain you. They make you question your own intuition, your moral compass. Be careful. There is a kind of person who never tells outright lies. They just bend the truth a little. They tell only half the story. They reveal just the pieces that make you feel sympathy and hide the rest. They don't scream, "Save me." They simply stay silent at the right moment, cry at the right time, and know exactly how to make you feel responsible for staying. These are the dishonest ones. In life, there are people who are truly weak, but there are also those who play weak to attract attention, pity, and support, without any real intention to change. Stoicism doesn't teach us to live in suspicion, but it does teach us to observe and discern, because kindness doesn't require blindness, and compassion should not be exploited by those who know how to manipulate emotion. Have you ever met someone like this? They come to you, venting, complaining, saying no one understands them, that the world is unfair. You listen earnestly, empathize, help, and then, when things get better, they withdraw, they disappear, without a word. Next time they return, it's the same old story just told a different way. The same tears, the same promises, and a string of contradictions you can't make sense of. Dishonest people don't just speak untruths. They make you question yourself. You start to wonder, am I being too harsh? Maybe I'm misunderstanding them. Am I being cold for wanting to step away? And so, you stay one more time, you help one more time, and you're disappointed one more time. Marcus Aurelius once warned in Meditations, "Don't let falsehood blind you, no matter how pitiful its disguise may appear." Dishonest people rarely show their true face at first. They know how to draw people in. They're skilled at triggering compassion. They know you have a moral compass, and they use it to bind you in silence. Epictetus also said, "A wise person doesn't help everyone, only those who truly need it, not those just looking for a place to hide." When you help someone who is not being truthful, you don't just lose time, you lose a part of your belief in your own goodness. And over time, that can make you shut down. Stop opening up. Stop giving. Stop believing that helping others is worth it. You need to be alert to these signs. They often complain, but their story keeps changing depending on who's listening. They avoid responsibility, always blaming someone or something else. They mess up, but are great at making excuses and at making you feel guilty for questioning them. They show up only when they need something and vanish when you do. They're vague in words and inconsistent in action. The most dangerous thing about a dishonest person is that they make you believe they need you. But the truth is, they just need a crutch, someone to dump their burden on, a wall to lean against. They don't care if you're exhausted. They just care whether or not you're still there. And if you walk away, they'll find someone else and replay the same victim role from the beginning. What does Stoicism teach you? Help with awareness, listen with clarity, and step back when your kindness starts being treated like a commodity. You were not born to be a shelter for falsehood. You are not obligated to save someone just because they know how to cry convincingly. Compassion must be paired with discernment. Empathy must be balanced with wisdom. And true love does not mean allowing others to drain you with stories they never truly want to grow from. Step back, not out of resentment, but because you must protect the purity of your heart for what is real. In the final part of this series, we'll speak about one last type of person, a very particular kind, the unrepentant. They are not fake. They are not dramatic. They don't complain. They simply know what they're doing is wrong, and have never had, and will never have, the intention to stop. You cannot save them, and you shouldn't try to. There is a kind of person who's very different from all the others we've talked about. They don't pretend. They don't make excuses. They don't hide. They know exactly what they're doing is wrong. They've been warned. They've been reminded. They've had chances. But they choose not to change. This is the unrepentant someone who no longer holds any intention of transformation. Epictetus once said something chillingly accurate. You cannot heal a soul that no longer wants to be healed. The unrepentant are not ignorant. They know full well, but they choose to ignore it. They live as if morality is negotiable, as if conscience is something you can switch on and off depending on the moment. Have you ever tried helping someone like that? You give sincere advice, they brush it off. You point out the consequences, they scoff. You hurt because you see them spiraling down. They accuse you of overreacting. You stay not because you're weak, but because you believe in their ability to change. But what you forget is, change only begins when someone wants it. And the brutal truth is, not everyone does. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When someone turns away from reason, only they can open the door back. You can knock, you can wait, you can stand at the door with patience and hope. But if what's inside is stubbornness, numbness, and a refusal to repent, then you're not just wasting time. You're imprisoning yourself in a relationship with no exit." The unrepentant don't need advice. They need consequences. They need awakening. And sometimes they need a loss deep enough to touch the bottom of their soul. You cannot play God. You cannot carry them on your shoulders. You cannot redeem someone when they themselves are running from the light. And one of the hardest things a Stoic must learn is how to let go, with compassion, not with bitterness. So far, we've walked through 7 kinds of people. The lazy, those who live off the kindness of others. The ungrateful, who take everything and appreciate nothing. The arrogant, who always think they're right and never listen. The malicious, who cause harm and expect you to shield them. The foolish, who repeat mistakes and refuse to grow. The dishonest, who manipulate emotions to win trust. And finally, the unrepentant, who've locked the door to change from within. Do you notice the common thread? They all drain you, not because you're weak, not because you lack compassion, but because you've been carrying what was never yours to bear. Stoicism doesn't teach us to grow cold. It teaches us to stay awake. Helping others is good, but helping the right people, that is wisdom. Helping at the right time, that is true compassion. And sometimes, helping means letting go, because that may be the deepest help of all. Only when they face reality, feel the loss, and confront their own consequences, can change, even begin to form. If you're standing beside someone who refuses to change, who denies every truth, who continues to live in error with frightening calm, step back, not to punish, not out of hate, but because you love deeply enough to know not everyone can or should be saved. To close, I'm not asking you to become distrustful or hardened. I'm simply inviting you to return to what Stoicism always emphasizes. Guarding your inner peace is a duty. And that peace sometimes must be protected by walking away from relationships that have become unhealthy. If you've come this far, perhaps there's someone in your heart who comes to mind. Perhaps you're thinking of a person, a memory, or a part of yourself that once didn't know how to say, enough. I'm not telling you to leave immediately. I'm just inviting you to ask, who am I trying to save? And do they even want to be saved? If not, let karma speak. Let silence do its work. Let time be the teacher. And you, continue living with compassion, but a compassion that has wisdom, a compassion that knows when to stop, that knows how to protect itself, that knows how to give at the right time, to the right person, in the right way. If this video touched a part of your heart, please share it with someone who may also need this gentle, yet firm reminder. And if fate allows, we'll meet again on another path, where kindness and strength can walk side by side.